Let's be real, we are absolutely swimming in a sea of information, and it feels like it's getting harder and harder to figure out what's real and what's just, well, noise. So how do you build a filter you can trust? Today, we're going to do just that, and we'll start with the kind of information you run into every single day: secondary research.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? You're scrolling through your phone, you're reading an article, watching the news, and bam, you're hit with a dozen different claims. So how do you decide what's legit? Well, we're about to break down a super practical way to do exactly that.
Okay, here's our game plan for this little investigation. First, we'll get our terms straight. Then, we'll figure out where all these sources are hiding in plain sight. After that, we'll learn how to put them under a microscope, and we're even going to crack a super famous case of some seriously misleading data. I promise, by the end of this, you're going to have a full toolkit for thinking critically.
All right, first things first, we need to really understand what we're dealing with. So what on earth are we even talking about when we say secondary sources?
Think of it like this. A secondary source is always one step removed from the actual event. The key words here, and you really got to remember these, are interpretation and analysis. Someone has already chewed on the raw information for you and has given you their take on it. It's not the original ingredient, it's the finished meal.
So getting this difference is absolutely crucial. Primary sources are the raw material, right? It's the diary someone wrote in the moment, the actual photograph that was taken, the live footage. Secondary sources, like a history textbook, take all of that raw stuff, they interpret it, they analyze it, and they weave a story around it to give it all context.
Okay, so we know what they are, but where do we actually find them? Well, the answer to that is kind of simple. They're literally everywhere.
You bump into these all day, every day. Seriously. The textbook you used in school, that news site you scrolled through this morning, even that documentary you watched last night. All of them are just different flavors of secondary research, packaging up information for you.
Now, among all these sources, some have a kind of built-in quality control system. It's called peer review. And if you ever see that something is peer-reviewed, that is a huge signal for credibility. It means other smart people in that same field have already kicked the tires and checked the work for accuracy before it ever got to you. Think of it as a preemptive fact check.
But, and this is a big but, just because something gets published doesn't mean it's flawless. This is where the real work begins for us. We've got to learn to weigh the good and the bad of every single source we come across.
And you can see it's all about trade-offs. Books and journals? Yeah, they're usually super well-researched and accurate, but a science textbook from 10 years ago? It's probably missing some major discoveries. The internet? It's amazing. It's an instant library with everything in it, but it's a library with no librarian where anybody can put any book on any shelf. And newspapers are fantastic for what's happening right now, but that race to be first can sometimes mean they get things wrong or let their biases show.
Now, to really drive home why this all matters, let's dig into a real-world example. It is a classic case of a statistic that sounds so official, so factual, but it's hiding a totally different story.
You've probably heard this one, right? Or something just like it. For years, this was a massive advertising line for Colgate. And it sounds like a slam dunk, doesn't it? I mean, 80%, the vast majority of experts agree. Case closed. Or is it? This is the million-dollar question. See, your brain automatically makes a leap. It assumes that if 80% of dentists recommend Colgate, then the other 20% must be recommending something else. But that's not actually what the data said at all. And here is the trick, the little loophole. The survey didn't force dentists to pick just one brand. They could check off as many as they liked. So a dentist could recommend Colgate and Crest and Sensodyne. So yeah, the claim was technically true. 80% did recommend it. But it was also totally misleading because another brand might have been recommended almost as much. They just conveniently left that part out. Eventually, the Advertising Standards Authority actually stepped in and banned the ad because it was so confusing. This is the perfect example of why you have to question how the data was collected, not just take the headline at face value.
That whole Colgate myth is a masterclass in how numbers can be used to lead you down the wrong path. So, to protect ourselves, we've got to understand the two main types of evidence we're going to run into: the numbers and the stories behind them. So let's break this down. It's pretty simple. On one side, you've got quantitative data. Just think quantity. It's anything you can measure with numbers. 93% of customers are happy. Easy enough. But on the other side, you have qualitative data. Think quality. This tells you why they're happy, or in this case, unhappy. It's the descriptive stuff. The food was bland, tasteless, and underwhelming.
One tells you what happened, and the other tells you the story behind what happened.
Whew! So, we have covered a ton of ground. We defined our terms, we looked at the landscape, we even solved a little advertising mystery. Now let's pack all of this up into your own personal toolkit.
Okay, here it is, your cheat sheet. First, always ask yourself, is this the raw stuff, or is it someone's interpretation? Second, remember every source has its strength and its blind spots. Third, put on your detective hat. Don't just read the headline number, ask how they got that number. And finally, know if you're dealing with hard data or human experience. Put these 4 tools together and you have a powerful shield against misinformation.
And that's our deep dive. I'm just going to leave you with this one final thought. With this new toolkit in your back pocket, the very next time you read an article with a bold claim or a flashy statistic, what's the first thing you're going to question?